Okay, folks, today I want to talk about something that's going to be a bit long winded and it might drag on, but if you're interested in the topic, maybe you'll get something out of it. And it's this idea of how we need evil to have free will. Because we think of something it's like let's eliminate all the evil from the world because it sounds like a noble thing to try to do, right? But without that evil, we would have no free will. That's the irony of existence and living, that you need the left and the right, the up and the down, the on and the off, the one and the zero. Because without the one and the zero, you just have one or zero and you can't get anything. That's why code doesn't work with just a one or a zero. You need both. You need a left and a right, an on and an off. So without the left and the right, the one and the zero, there's no variation and the road only leads in one direction. So you need the potential of another road, another direction to have any sort of free will. So this idea of like we need evil to have free will sounds weird, but then when you break it down, like logically, it makes complete sense because everyone would be going on the same road forever with no option to veer off into a side road. So when you think of the idea that we need evil to have free will, you can break that down in many different layers because even the word evil is sort of a strange word. Now, the term evil is the way we see it is, we see somebody, let's say you're watching the news and you hear a very disturbing news story. Somebody did something and you think, God, that person is truly evil, right? But evil, see, this idea of like evil, we call something evil, but it's not necessarily that the person is evil. The act they're doing is evil. Like, for example, if someone does something that we consider like horrific, the act that they did is horrific. So that's why we're calling it evil. But this idea that a human being is evil is a strange concept. Let me try to explain it and see if I can do a half decent job at explaining why the calling a person evil. I understand the idea of that's an evil act or that's a horrible act, calling the act evil. But this idea of evil, it's funny because, when people do really messed up things, we just assume, well, I guess they're evil, right? But what is evil? Because I said we need evil to have free will. So you think, well, the evil must be something. So then what is good? Because if you want to ask what evil is and what is good, right? How do you define what's good, right? It's really subjective. What's good? Everyone has a different version of what's good. So if good is an iffy term, how could evil be a very solid term, right? You start questioning both. So then how do you break it down in a more simple term? So let's say in some abstract sense, whether you believe in this concept, just like use it as a concept, whether you believe in this philosophy or not, is this idea of that everything in existence is connected. Everything in the universe is connected, everything in existence, and it's just this one thing. Now you can call this one thing all that is. How about we just call it that, all that is? The collective consciousness of all that is. You know, sometimes people have a psychedelic experience and they realize we're all one and they start crying and it's magical and you wonder why. What's so special about this all one thing? I always hear this, we're all one. What's the deal with people doing psychedelics or having some meditation and realizing we're all one and they start crying? What the hell is that? What do you mean we're all one? I'm here, you're here. We're not all one. What are you talking about? So this idea is this realization that we're all one. That's being connected to the whole. Typically, when people make a choice and they feel connected to this whole, this thing that they call we're all one, they usually make decisions based out of something I guess you would call love. It's a place of connection. You're making a decision based, because keep in mind, the word love is just the way the word is good or bad or evil. They're just words. They really mean nothing. It's just a way to describe something. So this connection, when you make a decision, when you feel you're connected to everything, it's a decision based on love. Now, when you feel disconnected from the whole and you feel alone, you can say you're making decisions out of fear, right? Because when you think about it, one of those choices is made from being one with everything, and the other decision is made from being separate from everything. So this idea of making these choices, right? Being connected and being disconnected, being on and being off. It's just a variation. You make choices based on being connected to the whole, and you can say those choices are made out of love. And when you're not connected to the whole, you can say those decisions are made out of fear. Now that sounds kind of iffy, right? You think, well, I don't know, what is that exactly? But think about it in your own life when you make the choices you make, right? Think of the choices you make when you're in fear and when you're scared, and then think about the choices you make when you feel loved and secure and safe and okay, right? So all those choices you make when you feel loved, secure, safe, happy, those seem to be like really nice decisions you make, right? Now imagine all the decisions you made that you call stupid, like all the stupid things I did. Those are usually out of fear, out of something, right? Out of being scared, out of being insecure, out of being something. So those are the things we judge as good and bad, good and evil, love, fear. Remember, these are all terms. The words mean nothing. It's just a way to describe that connection and disconnection, the on and the off, the love and the fear, the good and the evil, right? So that's a simple way to see how you need that dynamic of the two, the on and off, because without that, there would be absolutely no free will. Everybody would be on the exact same path, right? And here's another way to look at the term evil and not have so much hate inside of you, because that can really destroy a person. When you look at stuff that you think is evil and you think, God, it builds up so much resentment and hate, you know? You look at a guy like Hitler. That's a good example. Everybody hates Hitler, right? Because you think, well, of course everybody hates Hitler. He was a monster, right? He's sort of like, Hitler's usually the one we describe as that like example of like, oh my God, I have this boss at work. He's worse than Hitler, right? We just equate Hitler with that term. But when you look at someone like Hitler, when you look at somebody like anybody else that you consider like a horrible monster and evil person, what are they really? It's a baby that was born, and then at some point, something happened to them that rewired their brain in some sort of weird way where they do things that you consider evil or messed up. But this idea of looking at someone as evil is a strange concept, because I understand that if they do messed up things, you want to say they're evil, but it's the acts that they do are evil. But them, why do I say this? Because it's strange, because when you think of somebody who's sick in the head, like let's say somebody does something and they didn't act, they're evil, they're sick in the head, right? And you think they're evil. Well, just think about what you're saying. You're saying they're sick in the head, right? Because by default, for somebody to do something truly messed up, you would have to be sick in the head. Like for someone to harm a baby. No sane person who's got a health would ever want to harm a baby, right? So by definition, if you would do something like harm a baby, you would have to be sick in the head. So the idea that you're sick in the head, what does that tell you? They're not right. They're not evil. They're just sick. They're not well. So it's strange, because if someone's sick in the head, right, typically speaking, we have sympathy. So for example, let's say somebody has cancer of the brain and they're dying. Your grandma has cancer of the brain. You think, oh, my poor grandma, she's suffering. She's sick in the head. She's got cancer in the brain. We have sympathy. So with other illnesses, we have deep sympathy. If you're sick, if you have whatever illness you have cancer, you have any kind of illness, we feel empathy. We feel bad for the person, right? But ironically, if you're sick in the head in a way where you would harm a baby, we have no sympathy for that person. They're just pure evil. But this term evil, right? I heard this concept of like this idea of like evil. What the hell does evil mean? Like this idea of this analogy is like if you removed all human beings from the earth, would evil still exist? Right? Or is it just a man-made concept? It's just a word, right? You're describing something evil as a person who's sick in the head, they have an illness, and they do messed up things, and you just say, well, they're evil, right? But what they really are is just sick in the head, right? Anybody who does truly messed up things is just simply sick in the head. Either they were born and their brain was just wired in a strange way where they feel no empathy for people and they do really messed up things to people, or something happened to them, a trauma as a young kid, and then that made them, their brain was completely rewired, and they're doing these things that you consider evil. But this person's really just sick in the head. So when you wonder, like, let's say you hear somebody who says, oh, I'm very enlightened and I meditate a lot and I'm all about this really nice stuff. Just ask them, do you hate Hitler? That's all you have to do. The biggest question to ask somebody if they think they're truly enlightened and aware, just say, oh, really? You're really aware and enlightened and you feel that we're all one? Just ask them, do you hate Hitler? If they say, oh, of course, Hitler was evil, of course. They're not quite there yet. That's really what true enlightenment is. Looking at a guy like Hitler, and instead of seeing somebody, oh, that person's pure evil, just say that person was just sick. That's it. That's the big mystery of what enlightenment is. That's all it is. It's looking at a guy like Hitler and realizing he's not pure evil. Evil is just like some made up word to describe something, and really what he is just somebody who's sick. That's it. But the irony of this thing that we call evil, we need evil to have free will. It's not that we're just calling it something. It's the idea that we need something disconnected. So like there's an on and an off. So the analogy is the connection, that's one choice, being connected to the whole. You make choices out of love and comfort and happiness. And then when you're disconnected, you might perhaps make choices out of fear and hate and things we consider evil, right? But they're just labels. That's all they are. They're just labels. So, but that is the ultimate irony of life. So when you look at stuff out in the world, because I do it too. I complain and rant about a lot of things, because you see stuff that what is that? But in reality, it's the irony of that is that you need that. So what you should be doing is like, thank God that stuff exists. Because if that stuff didn't exist that you complain about and rant and whine, you would have no free will. That's the irony of free will. You need to have two choices, the on and off, the left and the right. That's the only way you can have free will. You have to have the ability to veer off into another path. And that's it. So thanks for watching and have a good day. Bye.